7:06, we'll call to order this town council meeting on September 13th, 2022. Everyone please rise for pledge of allegiance and roll to silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Proclamation presentation, we have none for this meeting. So. Should be all good. Good. All right. So move on to public petitions, communication, and public participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of town council with a 2-minute limit. If you are on Zoom, you can hit the raise hand function. Working on a phone, *9, and then if you're in the public, you can approach the table and state your name and address. If you're here for any of the other topics, or if you know, at that point, I'll see with any commentary. Great. Go once, go twice. All right, seeing none, we'll move over to item 6, public hearing items. We have none, so 7A is reports of boards and committees responsible to the council. Councilmember.
Yeah, I know that Bev has been working very hard on getting all the change orders reviewed by the state for the Birch Road project. And I think we're just waiting on the last 2, right?
I think we're just waiting on Peter to see whether.
Okay, so they've all been reviewed, and there were 2 items that were flagged out of the, I don't know, there's probably 130 different items that the state flagged as not eligible for reimbursement. And Peter Stava, who's the facilities director at the Board of Education, has been in contact with the state through his communications. He's already gotten the state to reconsider one of those items. So there's just one remaining item that we're waiting to see if it will be considered for reimbursement. I can't remember exactly what the item was, but the value of it was about $30,000. So of all the change orders we did, which actually for a project this size now.
Security cameras or something.
Yeah, okay. So it's a security related item. And so for the good news here, the bottom line is that we are almost done with project closeout. Thank goodness. And that there are no surprises left, right? There's one item of about $30,000 that may not be eligible for reimbursement, but everything else that we expected to be reimbursed is on track to get reimbursed, which is really good, right? We're in really good shape for this project, and hopefully Peter will finish his communications with the state over that item, solve one way or the other, so we can finally close the project out, and then
At the Board of Ed.
have the Board of Ed accept the project. And that's a technical vote, right, for the auditor, and we're done. So it feels good to be getting closer all the time.
That's great. And then,
Quick question.
yeah, absolutely.
So, the 30,000 that we could possibly be paying, that's still covered by the contingency that we had.
Oh, yeah, there's no, we're not in danger of, so everything we did in the project, the total value of the project is $46 million. So if none of it were being reimbursed, we still stayed under 46 million. If all of it were being reimbursed, we're still within the 46 million. So we, there's no issue about us exceeding that value.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Luba. And then only other quick update is the Firehouse Subcommittee is looking to set a organizational meeting date. We're looking to finalize that, and I believe some initial communications. We're going to mirror the ARPA subcommittee with myself and Councilor Luba being the chair and vice chair, and a member of the staff serving as secretary. But that obviously is pending the organizational meeting being set and held. So that covers boards and committees responsible to council. So we'll go on to reports of town council liaisons. Who wants to go first? Councilman Murray or Councilman Yudichak?
Don't matter to me.
Sorry, this side.
All right, so we've been at the ARPA meeting met a couple of weeks ago, and still working on one that should be coming forward to town council in next month regarding recreation and helping to support those with programming for children and adults. And Bruce is doing a tremendous job trying to figure out how to do this. We're hoping when we do it that, the idea is to give it more of a discount than having it free, so residents have a stake in it instead of offering it free. So that should be coming to the council hopefully next month, so Bruce has an idea and to put it into the next, the winter program book. So that's really good news for all residents. And the recreation advisory board met last night. We just skip over to those. I know I don't have it in front of me. Bruce mentioned last night that the tennis courts should be resurfaced by the end of this month. He also brought it up regarding the recreation stuff. And it was a very short meeting, and again, Bruce does a great job running the department, and I just want to give a shout out for him organizing Celebrate Tolland on Tuesday, so I think Bruce is on here. So thank you, Bruce, for all your hard work for the town. Yep, I have.
Thank you, Council Viacek, Council Luba.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, that, planning and zoning met last night, that, some of the, there was a lot of discussion on a few different issues. The biggest one was the zoning regulation amendment for, sections 5-2 and 5-3 regarding two-family housing, where they did agree upon, after a public hearing, that, they would reduce the, minimum lot size for family dwellings to 2 acres, and that they would allow, two-family dwellings by zoning permit as opposed to special permit. While that doesn't sound significant, it is a pretty significant issue, where it does also enhance, based on the discussions, the ability for us to come to increase our affordable housing within town. That the restrictions were that it would have to be essentially a top and bottom duplex. Essentially, there was allowing for different variances, but that it's not going to be something that you can see side by side or things like that, where it's got to basically still meet the character of the town as defined. But that's something that they'll flesh out in the zoning regulations. That they also had a very spirited discussion on the signs regarding businesses, and I learned more than I wanted to about 12 inches of or where signs were located. But it was a discussion that they had, and that they're continuing on regarding the section 19-2 on signs around businesses. That's all I have. Oh, I'm sorry, Veterans Recognition Commission, that we have, that there was 2 special meetings that we tried accomplishing, but that they didn't quite pan out. That there is another meeting coming up on the 15th. So anyone that would like to attend, that's the minutes or the agenda is being put out. And thank you to everyone who had Celebrate Tolland purchased the tumblers that the VRC put out there. That's an additional fundraiser to help the VRC with various projects that they have planning, and that there'll be based upon my discussion with them at the Celebrate Tolland, that there's a lot of other ideas that they have for various things where people get involved in fundraising aspects. So that's all I have at this point now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Luba. One other meeting we actually both had, but not much to report, is we had a land acquisition on the 7th for executive session. So that's one item to report. On the 8th, Conservation Commission met. They also had a great time at Celebrate Tolland. So great job, Bruce, and everyone who was able to attend. Not too much major news from them. And then last night, the Library Foundation met, and so they sent in, I believe everyone on the council received their correspondence for their annual report. So they'll be meeting with us on the first Tuesday of October, second Tuesday of October to meet with us. So that is it for West Reading.
No meetings to report this week.
All right.
No
That's
meeting.
Councilman Murray.
The only thing I have is that farm to table dinner, which was scheduled for later this week, has been canceled. My understanding is there was trouble getting catering staff, and they didn't sell enough tickets to make it worthwhile. So it's unfortunate.
Hopefully next year.
Hopefully next year, yeah.
Seeing no other reports for liaisons, we move on to new business. So item 8.1 is the consideration of a resolution to amend ordinance number 54, designation of voting districts and the setting of a public hearing thereon for September 27th, 2022. And I see, I think we have with us tonight, one of the registrars, Bach. If you want to approach the table and sit with us, if there's any questions from council members.
Glenn Bach, 192 Ball Hill Road, Tolland, General Register of Voters here. Yep.
So in a nutshell, the state has mandated changes to the Tolland voting districts. Basically, Weigold, Cedar Swamp, Grant Hill, and Garrett are the areas affected, 203 people. And then also a move to allow the people who live over here at Parker Place to be able to walk out the back door and vote there, as opposed to being bused to the other side of town. But Mr. Bach here is going to elaborate much more thoroughly than I just did there. Thank you for coming, Mr. Bach.
You're welcome. I'm gonna share off, I don't know if you want this for your records, I have a copy of this, I'll give it right here. What I have here is the map as it was done in 2010. For 10 acres, the town had to take this area here, which is now District 3. They took it from District 1 and it's District 3, the town for Mr. Eckert. When we just had our last census, and what happened is they moved things around. Has nothing to do with the size of the maps, it's just the way it is. But what happened here, we lost 208 people. Have gone from District 3 to District 1. They're still voting at the same place, it makes it easier. They've all gotten a letter saying the difference is they're not voting for Tim Eckert anymore, they're voting for Nucio. Because that's who has this area here. So this is a big change that's taking place right here. And the other one was on, as they're saying, we got right now we have 24 voters at 100 Post Road, and they are active to voting. So they're 12 in person, 4 absentee last time. So it is a good thing for them. It makes it a lot easier for them to go from Old Post to go to the senior center. Right now, they can just walk next door. And that's basically what it comes down to. It's an ordinance. It's very simple to do, but by the charter, this is what we have to do.
Are there any questions from council members for Len or for Brian? Otherwise, we're setting the public hearing for the 27th.
Thanks for bringing us maps.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave them up there. I'll give them to
Sounds great.
Okay. We all
Thank
set
you.
there?
I think we are all set. I don't see any questions, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution outlined in 8.1 and set a public hearing for September 27th, 2022.
So moved.
There's a second, second by Councilor Khan. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Unanimous. Thank you, Len.
Very good.
Appreciate your service. All right. 8.2, discuss ADA recommendations for town recreation fields. And I know, I think we have Ryan has loaded up to share with the screen as a presentation of the scouts, so we'll invite you guys, if you want to introduce yourselves, and you can sit at the table here and
I know.
so just go to share screen and then click on the, you got presentation right there. There you go.
Nice.
Maybe you want to scroll to the first slide for them. Well, oh, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to run through a little history of how we got here, if that's all right with you.
Of course.
Okay, this started way back with our human services folks, as long also with our people with disabilities years ago. And coincidentally, the Girl Scouts started a similar project, and that is a look at the readiness for ADA accessibility to our parks and our fields. We commissioned a study. It cost roughly 10 to 15K for our town engineer. At the same time, the good news is the town of Tolland is always improving, looking historically at our ADA access. And the lesser good news is we can always get a lot better. And with that, the Girl Scouts submitted their plans, and it somewhat mirrors what our engineer did. And secondarily, there was a resident-driven initiative to have the Cross Barnes fields improved through up to ADA standards through it was CIP, but now it's ARPA. And that project is ongoing and improving. And the reason Cross Farms was selected was for that project was, in consideration with Parks and Rec and the amount of usage, but it already had an ADA bathroom, ADA snack bar, and ADA playground. So why not work on getting those fields up there too? And there's some pretty steep hills there. With that today, obviously we have Chuck, our engineer here. We have Beverly from Human Services, some of the folks from our People with Disabilities Commission, as well as the Girl Scouts, who are now going to give a 5 or roughly however long your presentation takes. And thank you so much for coming and for everything that you did. And what a wonderful project. And where I'm very grateful. I'm not just saying that for the work that you guys have done. You're going to see in their proposal, as well as Chuck's, that a lot of these initiatives are there's a lot and it's heavy. But at the same time, we've identified, for lack of a better term, some low-hanging fruit for DPW to start and picking off the list. And there's somewhat of the easier things around parking and such. And you kind of asked one of those questions in email to me earlier today. It'll come down to, when everyone's done here, kind of a discussion on how we want to prioritize and move forward, considering the already ongoing project at Cross Farms and some of the low hanging fruit. You have a list. Everyone should have a list in front of them. That's kind of the easier stuff. And by the way, that list was not identified by us here at Town Hall. Again, that was another ask of us to the Girl Scouts, and they did that for us. And again, we are very grateful to have that. So we'll move through that now. Julia Kasai and Kaylee Garrett, correct? All right, guys. And I want to say hi to Mr. Friedman, my old neighbor in the old neighborhood. I want to make sure you can get to all the games. All right, so go ahead, ladies.
I'm Kaylee, this is Julia, and we appreciate your time and letting us present our projects to you. So we are 8th grade Girl Scouts that like to play soccer. The Girl Scout Silverwood project is what we are trying to accomplish, and it's the second highest award in Girl Scouting, and you can achieve it by spending at least 50 hours on a project that is sustainable, and it will benefit the community for years to come. We came up with the idea for this project because we saw how hard it was for our handicapped grandparents, friends, and coaches to watch us play sports and coach us, and we want to try our best to change that. So the steps that we've done to make it here, we've researched what makes sports fields ADA compliant, and using that research, we made a checklist of what to assess when we visited the sports fields. We met with Chuck Eaton to learn how he assesses the fields, and he showed us how he did it. And then once we learned from him, we visited all the fields in Tolland, filled out our checklist of what needs to be improved. Then we met with Mrs. Bucieri, who is a soccer coach in town, who uses a wheelchair, and we wanted to get her perspective on how accessible all the fields are. Then we met with the town manager, and we talked about some long-term and short-term changes. In these pictures, me and Julia are using wheelchairs, and Mrs. Bucieri is the person in the middle in the first picture, and on the left in the second picture. It's really hard for her and her husband, who also uses a wheelchair, to get to most of the sports fields because a lot of the fields are not wheelchair accessible. We did this to try and get a feel for what a person that uses a wheelchair has to go through just to try and watch Tolland sporting events. As you can see here in the chart, there's a lot of red, which means that the stuff is not accessible. And some of the things we evaluated were the handicap parking was ADA compliant, and if there's an accessible route to the field, and if the surface on the route to the field was level and was the correct width. And it had the right surface, so and then we decided to see if there's an accessible seating area. If there were any curb ramps that you needed, if you needed any curb ramps, and any accessible bathrooms. As you can see, there's a lot of red, which I'm sure we wouldn't want. We want a lot more green, and the black is not applicable. Our next, some of our next steps are, the town manager said that, Public Works will repaint or add signs for improvement of handicap parking that doesn't have like any paint or anything. Bruce Watt allowed us to move and switch out the porta potties. The clubs, committed their support to pay the additional cost of upgrading the porta potties to accessible ones. That's approximately $300 per month. And provided the porta potty is placed on a surface. Some of our future priorities are these. So our recommendation for now is to focus on the Cross Farms accessible paths to the fields first, because Cross Farms is Tolland's premier recreation facility. Work is starting on the baseball fields to make them accessible soon. And we should make the soccer fields accessible so the whole facility is accessible. And we need a minimum of $60,000 to pave the pathways at Lower Cross Farms, per Tuck Eaton's report. There is a contractor that will donate their time and resources into helping to prepare for the paving for free. Compared to other towns, this would put Tolland in a leadership position and help put our town on the map as one of the first to have ADA accessible grass fields. This is my grandfather, Ron Friedman, who would like to share a few words.
Thank you all for listening to me. And I'm just so impressed with what these girls have done. I know what they have done in part. They've opened doors and looked at underneath things to show that this needs to be done and that needs to be done. In a way, it's like a Pandora's box. Everything flies out. But in the legend of Pandora, everything flew out and then she shut the box. And the one thing she shut in the box was hope. And that's the hope of the community, that a larger community who wants to be part of everything that goes on here and can be. I know what they're talking about will be expensive. But someone once said, there's always the money to do it. The thing that's needed is the will to do it. And so that lays with you folks to find both that will and the money that will eventually be needed. It can only be done in parcels. You can't do the whole thing beyond you. But I'm sure you can find the money. It's out there. And you have a disability committee that can help you with that. But it's really a great thing that you are looking at this to include people in the community like myself who can't get the games. Okay, I can get to the parking space, but what is the parking space if you can't get down to the field? Okay. And what is down on the field? You have to go to the bathroom, but there is. So one thing needs to know, yes, but again, I feel what the girls have done here is absolutely incredible, and I'm glad that you've given them the time to talk about it and to show this younger generation that this older generation is willing to listen and to do what will be necessary. It may take time, but it will be done. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman, and thank you for both of you for attending, and it is a really great report. I'm glad you were able to work with Chuck and all of our, stakeholders. I'll open the floor to any questions from council members for our scouts. Councilor Luba.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First off, ladies, thank you very much. I mean, this is outstanding. I wish I had people that work for me that would put in this type of work. The one thing that was great about it is that the visual, the chart, talking about the red, it's one thing for people to say, this is what we need, and this is what we need to do, and this is what you need to do. And a lot of times we'll hear it, but it won't register. This shows us, this spreadsheet, the blocks and everything. You're right, there's a lot of red here, and we need there's a lot of ability for us to improve. But the work that both of you have done, the initiative you've taken, and the other thing is the recommendations. I mean, that's outstanding. Whenever I've been in a leadership role, I've told people, look, don't come to me with problems, come to me with answers, come to me with solutions. You identified the problems, you came with solutions, and this is outstanding. And I really commend you for the outstanding work you've done on this. I think that really says a lot for the Scouts and for the organization you're affiliated with. And I think this is just a great job. So I commend you both, and I commend the parents and the people that helped you with it. So thank you very much.
Councilor Luba, are there any other questions or comments for scouts? You check.
100% agree with Lou. Fabulous what you've done. Hopefully everybody that's watching can see all the red we have in town. I can also serve on the commission with people with disabilities. I'm sure that they'll be really proud. They're on this call, proud of all the hard work that's here. So again, thank you. And you're right, there is hope when you bring something forward. At least it brings a discussion that we need to seriously talk about and take action on. So thank you.
Ladies, thank you so much. I've been on the council now for 5 years, and this is something that continuously comes up, and it's something that really needs to be addressed. So I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to put this report together. This is something that I think we need to keep on working on, and I think eventually we'll get there. Like Deacon Ron said, Deacon Ron, it's great to see you. I remember saying happy. I haven't seen you in a long time, so good to see you. So thanks for coming out, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Egan. Any other councilors with comments?
Yeah,
Councilor Murray?
again, thank you very much. I think, as I was reviewing our packet for this week, and talking about it, one of the first questions I had was about priorities. And so I really appreciate that you ladies gave us some priorities, because we have quite a big list, as you pointed out with your chart in front of us. And sometimes it's hard for us to know where to start. So I think that was a very important thing that you brought to us tonight. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies. First of all, thinking about others besides yourself. That's a very important thing, that especially your generation, because majority I've seen is like texting, even though they are sitting right close to each other, they are texting each other. So if you're thinking about other people, I think that's very, and we need people like you. You coming with the solution and everything else, and with this suggestion, we do appreciate it, and we need more people like you to come forward. And I thank you.
Anything else, yes, I'll echo all of that again. Yeah, with it, I think it was roughly $2.6 million price tag. I think to Ron's point, it's definitely not an easy lift or an easy ask, but I think we have a lot of opportunities, and I think your stewardship and opportunities to reach out, offer some people to volunteer their time and services. And I think moving forward, we can continue to collaborate as a community to help minimize those costs, but also make areas of the projects go by quicker. So I thank you for that. And thank you for being involved. I hope we continue to do so. Be a partner with us. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Beth Garrett, Kaylee's mom, Girl Scout leader. I just wanted to add a couple of things. I know we're talking a lot about the costs, and you've seen Chuck's report that includes kind of his concept drawings of what he suggests the changes in the field would be. And I think there's certainly some ongoing conversations. I think we don't have to look at that entire price tag, right? We can say, let's look at just paving this path and this path. Like, let's start with this piece of it. So we can work together to break out some of those costs. And they mentioned in their presentation, there's a Tolland Soccer Club family that is like the contractor, and he has offered his equipment, his labor to help do any of this, because he has recognized that, you know, we need some paths, we need better access to, especially the cross farm field, and others, but we can certainly work together and work with him to see how we can keep the costs a little bit lower to the town and get the biggest bang for our buck there. And the girls are happy to continue to be involved. Please reach out to us. We want to kind of be a part of this process ongoing.
I was gonna say the same to you. Continue to please reach out to us.
And for future generations of scouts with their silver projects to do similar. And then I think, yeah,
I'm Suzanne Casey, Julia's mom, and another thing I just wanted to point out is that the girls hope that, you know, additional funding might be available through ARPA and other resources. I know that there's been some funding earmarked for Tolland, and hopefully, you know, some of these other priorities could be included in some of the plans that are upcoming.
no, absolutely. Thank you. That was definitely a question. I think I reached out to Mr. Foley and they're still looking for some answers, but we've done, I think historically, I think Councilman Yudichak can concur. I think Cross Farms, I think Brian mentioned it, is being paid in part with or paid in full ARPA funds. So there is some potential precedent there to review these projects and have them implemented with some of those funds. So that'll help us move along very quickly as well. And then it looks like we have a couple members of the task or
I think
the.
so.
Oh,
Commissioner disability that.
yeah, I saw their hand. I was waiting to cover the folks in person, and I was gonna hop over to Susan Hughes and then Ellen Whittle. I'll ask you to mute. Okay, good.
Hi there. I'm sorry, my light just went off and I'm in a cave, but I just want to commend these young ladies. Thank you so much for thinking outside the box and thinking of others and going to this length to do this project, because what we're looking at, red versus black versus green, that represents probably the majority of our town. And if you look at our town green, it's going to be mostly red. So I just appreciate, it brought me to tears what you guys just presented. And Deacon Ron, I love you and thank you for being involved and coming forward and supporting this, because yeah, everyone should spend a couple of days in a wheelchair and try and get around Tolland and see how it works for you, because it's not that easy. And I just really wanted to commend these ladies, these young ladies. It has taken me many, many years. I'm much older than you, but you are already beyond what I have done in terms of advocacy. And so good job, and keep it going, and never stop fighting for what's right. And I'm proud to be in a town with young people like you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. And Ellen?
It's Kim then.
Oh, yeah, it actually be Kim. Oh, you're still muted.
So sorry, this is actually Kim Little, so sorry. I have to say to the ladies, you've touched my heart. This has always been a passion for me, is including all people in all things. And I thought about funding, and I used to be on the committee. The Hartford Foundation actually gives grants to our town. So that may be a source of funding to explore. I believe it was called the Tolland Community Fund, but it definitely could help with funding. And it's just wonderful to see what my neighbors are doing. So thank you again, and keep up the hard work. You are definitely future leaders.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate the kind words.
So looking at funding, obviously, correct, ARPA would be a consideration moving forward. And then we could look at capital budget, and we can also look at, our state representatives going to bond and different grants like that. Many of us have a great relationship with the Harvard Foundation already, but there's a lot of other opportunities out there as well. And that's why I'm going to count on the Girl Scouts and Bev and the disability folks to stay on top of us and keep it fresh in our imaginations. You guys, everyone should have a copy of Chuck's report. He's here to answer any questions, and I know some of you looked through it. It is it's extensive, the report, and no need to go through it all here, but I commit to the Girl Scouts that we will keep working to push these initiatives forward. So thank you so much, and I was grounded more than once for weeks for heck that I gave Mr. Friedman. So I promise you, that is not a lie. And I promise you that I'll stay on top of this, Mr. Friedman. I did a hard time.
Are there any questions from council members for Chuck at this time, or about the report in general? I know there were some questions that were sent to Councilor.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to review all the answers and replies that you and Brian had prepared, Mr. Chair. But it's a matter of is there any opportunity for additional funding, like going for federal grants or things like that? I mean, I know we have a grant writer position. Is this something that we might be able to pursue? I mean, I know ADA compliance, there's funds that are usually out there to assist towns in becoming ADA compliant.
Yes, and yes, and that'll be put right on the where we hire their plate. I couldn't agree more, and it's a political win for states and federal governments to award these types of things too for them. So we would look to pursue as much of that as possible, Councilperson.
That's all I have at this
point. Thank you, Councilor Luma. Any other questions from council members? Councilor Murray?
Yeah, one of the things you put in front of us was an email from Julia, right? Regarding the recommendations for maybe some handicap parking spots, et cetera. Are these things that the town is going to start to prioritize?
Yes, so I put those to Mr. Lappin and DP. I assume you're asking me.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
All right, so I put those.
Thank you.
I put those to Mr. Lappin and DPW to look at, and he just got them. He was on vacation last week, so certainly, Scott, do you have anything to add, or are you ready to talk or no?
I mean, looking at the list, there's a lot of things on here that we could take care of in the real immediate future. Others are gonna take a little more work for us getting into our, fall season prepping for winter. That's a priority as well. What we can tell.
And I know we weren't able to get an additional public works laborer in, so I know that their plate is very full there, but I think everyone is in agreement that this is a important endeavor. So that I think that's it's good to know that there are things on this report, which is obviously a pretty big dollar figure, that we can start on, because it is important.
Yep.
And it shows that we as a council, we as a town, we as a community are prioritizing these things. It would be great to kind of be able to circle back at a reasonable time period and see how much progress we've made and how, what's the next step. I mean, if the priority is these parking issues, and then what the ladies recommended regarding the accessible path at Cross Farms, like to get an update on how that's going.
I like it, and Bruce kind of mentioned the same things in some of his prioritization. He's here if you have any questions on prioritizing these. But yes, and I would suggest inviting the Girl Scouts and the people with disabilities again.
Yeah.
Mission to on somewhat of a regular basis to take the temperature and get a grading report on our actions.
I think that's great.
I concur. Are there questions, at least for Chuck or for the scouts?
I just had a question.
Yeah.
Again, you are amazing, but, besides that, on here, any future priorities, this is the contractors that will donate their time or resources. Prepare for paving for free. Someone only, how do you ever help with that, or how?
I can answer that, if that's okay. So yes, Kaylee's dad is the president of the Tolland Soccer Club. And one of the families approached him and they said, this is horrible, we have to get better access down to these fields, and he's a general contractor, so he has equipment. And we haven't had any ongoing conversations with him, he just approached him and said he'd be willing to donate, time with his equipment. To help if it's clearing the grounds. I'm not sure he would be paving the path, but he might help, clear the path. Do some of the removals. We could certainly have some more conversations with him, and we will, just to find out, what he might be willing to do. But he said he'd be happy to donate some of his time and equipment and labor to helping, reduce the cost to the town and do some of it. So we'll try to loop him back in as well. I have some
And
other-
there could be other organizations in town that might also support if we were to approach them with a plan.
Yeah.
And, I think the community has that strength of coming together when there's a need. So.
Yeah, we could certainly do some work reaching out for other donations, other, people might be willing to contribute and help with the cost.
Great, thank you. Any other questions at this time? I know there were a few that I shared with the council, will be shared from the minutes. I know one of them, I think, was, and I think we talked about a lot of the red, and one of the questions was about liability, and I know Brian reached out to our attorney and said, obviously, we're making an effort, we're doing a lot of work, but this, could be used as a document, but it's not really seen as something that would be impactful negatively against the town.
He echoed a lot of the same things that Deacon Ron did with about the Pandora's box thing, but much less gracefully. But no liability for doing such a study. And certainly anything that's produced could be used down the road as an exact advice to that type of question.
All right, thank you. But no, great work. I'll open if there's any other questions. I know Councilman Gail.
Just wanted to say thank you, guys. This is something that the council's been talking about for quite a few years, and as adults, we tend to get in our own way and think of, we have to have this, we have to have that, we have to have all these things in line to be able to actually do what you guys did with 3 wheelchairs. And I think it's very important, and congratulations on your silver award. I do a lot of Boy Scout awards, and I'm very, very, very happy to see the girls doing a silver award.
You got like 20 more hours, so.
Yeah.
We got 6 more girls.
Watch the Fitment.
I'll have the dance music, you bring the cookies.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many other questions. I think we have a very thorough report. You guys did a very good, comprehensive presentation for us. I think the next steps, obviously, are some of the quick, easy priorities. I think, Mr. Foley, you sent out to the council that the capital budgets are already starting. So I think looking at these fields as long-term projects that might be spread out over the next couple of years is something we can also tackle. So this will be an ongoing process. It's in multiple phases. So we definitely encourage you to keep in touch. Keep us to task, and let us know when you want to come back and provide any updates, if any changes, anything new. We wholeheartedly welcome you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we will move on to another question at this time. We'll move on to 8.2. Actually, not 8.3. My apologies. That is a consideration of a resolution for a supplemental appropriation of $1,203 to increase the dial ride budget for additional state revenue awarded.
So Bev is here to, it's a fairly simple financial move. Bev, you want to explain what it is, please?
The increase is due to the switch in the census, and the state DOT basically takes the population for Tolland, and that's why we ended up with the increase. Kim and I, the senior center director, we went over and we met with the director of Cochran Valley and starting to talk about the transit program, how it's funded, utilization costs, what can they do with the extra funds? And we were talking about a shopping trip on Saturday and doing some other things, but we also want to invite David to the senior center and start talking, because some people are hesitant to use the dial ride services, and it's just trying to encourage people to use it, especially if they've been driving for so many years. The Tolland and the rural communities are a little bit different that way. I think that, and also there are some of our residents we heard, when they're going for a ride in Tolland, they're on the bus a lot longer, the mileage is a lot longer than sometimes what it takes, but we're gonna keep, Kim and I are gonna keep working on it, increase awareness, and we're glad we got a little extra money from the state and funding.
Are there any questions from council members?
Not the Girl Scout project.
You said you had more girls, but.
Help us increase the awareness. You can do a survey.
Council member?
Is the increase in funding directly, do we have to use it for dial ride?
This, yes, because it's a state grant.
Okay, so it's a state grant
Yeah,
for
that's
dial
the
ride.
state grant portion,
Okay,
so that's what they increased.
okay, and this is then, we're expecting this same level-ish for the next decade. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council members? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution as outlined in 8.3.
So moved.
By Council Luba, seconded by Council Yudichak. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Unanimous, and that passes. All right, 8.4 is a consideration of a resolution to declare the attached list of public works vehicles as surplus property within the town. There's some documentation here regarding the vehicles and some photographs, and we also have Scott here from Public Works. If you have any questions about the vehicles, and otherwise I'll kick it over to Brian. I know there are a few questions that we passed over as well about the vehicles, so.
We got some real gems going out there, that have been, certainly, done some years. And so, Scott's here to answer any questions. We hit up, some of where the money goes. If he has to scrap the vehicles and we get scrap parts money for the money we get goes into the capital fund. It's not a whole lot of cheese, but, it's a good chunk of change. Scott, do you have anything?
No, it's just, I mean, you can see like the Jeep is, excuse me, 21 years old. The fuel tank is laying underneath it at this point. It's rotting away, as are the trucks. You can put your finger through the sides of most of these. They're not roadworthy at all, so we sell them. Typically, we go to Villages Auto and say, oh, they have any value. They'll give us as much as $500. Again, like Brian said, that goes into our reserve.
Are there any questions from council members?
I would, just a comment. I would assume all these trucks would be in place, right, through our capital, or no? They, removing them, are they just out of the fleet altogether, or?
What happens is, as we replace supervisors, pickup trucks, they go into the fleet. So truck 64 was replaced with one of the older pickup trucks that was supervisors before. Truck 54, which is the Jeep, that used to be previous director of Public Works vehicle. We kept it just for transportation. Now that it's shot, we have no intention of replacing that. And truck number 9 was replaced when we replaced the mechanics truck with the new body and chassis itself.
Any other questions from council members on 8.4? Okay, seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the resolution as outlined in 8.4.
That motion.
By Council Yudichak, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Council Murray. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is unanimous. So 8.5, Consideration of resolution to declare various equipment in disrepair or obsolete from the Board of Education. I believe we have some communications from the Board of Education and Dr. Willett, Superintendent Willett, and it is just 12 AEDs that have expired. You can only get replacement parts, new AEDs installed, and the company is repossessing them at no costs for the district. So, are there any questions from council members about 8.4 or 8.5? All right, seeing none, and your motion to approve resolutions outlined in 8.5.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Murray, seconded by Councilor Luba. Being no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, everyone. So we are now on to 8.6. Appointments to vacancies on various municipal boards and commissions. Just want to thank John Multenny for their service. Sad to see them go, but grateful for their work with the Commission on People with Disabilities. And I think as Councilor Luba and Councilor Khan would, reiterate at every meeting, we highly encourage people to step up and volunteer. There's a lot of vacancies, including recent ones. So with that, Councilor, we going to add anything else?
No, that both, Councilman Khan and I have reviewed the qualifications that we would endorse these nominations.
Thank you, Councilor Luba. So with that, I entertain a motion to approve the appointments laid out 8.6A and 8.6B.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Murray. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Khan. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Moving on to item 9, old business, which we have none. Item 10 is report of the town manager. So I go over to Brian, and there's been a lot of stuff going on in town the past few weeks.
Yes, thank you. Let's start out with the right at the top there. Julia Meyer hired as our first female full-time career firefighter, which is just fantastic. We welcome her. Sarah Beth Nivison hired as the executive assistant in the town manager's office. Feel free to stop by and say hi. And Jacqueline Dubay was hired as the administrative assistant down in the senior center, and she was already volunteering a ton down there anyways, doing some different things. And as you know, Tina, our animal control officer, left to become a state dispatcher with the state police. So she'll be going into the academy. And we're currently posted for that. The lightning strike, we continue to muscle our way through that. We have realized that the deductible, which we thought was 25,000, was 2,500. So that's a win. I didn't giggle exactly like that. It was some welcome news, but we're still working our way through some of the issues with the cooling and heating, and some of the security, and some of the hardware to our computers. Our buildings department, they're still doing a lot of obviously the same business, but also they're keeping an eye on the mobile gas fuel spill, which is moving along fine, and really a best case scenario the way it's being paid for, and who gets to decide what gets done. So there'll be no corners cut, that's for sure. Human Services is busy, as you know. They went through a lot of their stuff. They're doing yoga on the green coming up, which I'm very excited about, and I'm hoping we have a good showing for that, and I hope all of council attends. That's a joke. So it's I will not. It's very successful in Hartford, the yogas in the parks, be it Riverside Park, Bushnell Park, and around other places around the state, to have it outside open air. So it's a great out of the box idea, and another great use of our green, because it really is just such a peaceful place. Councilman Udacek stole my thunder with congratulating the folks for Celebrate Tolland efforts that they had. But I also want to say that the Scarecrow event, both the contest and then the event is, I signed the permit today. We had another planning meeting. There will be a multitude of food trucks, 5 churches, a beer truck will be there. We're going to close the road down. We've worked through darn near everything we need to on that. I have extensive special events planning, from marathons and parades all the way down to tiny little church parking lot events in the city. For about 25 years I did it. So this is moving very smoothly. I thank everybody involved, from our buildings folks who did a lot of the mapping. Obviously, our permanent celebration folks are just doing an amazing job with building this event up. It was very successful last year. They expect about, they have 20 scarecrows. They expected to get up near 40, same as last year. And that the day they build them, that event that day there, I think is going to be fantastic. The fire department, the fire marshal, the state police, DPW Director Lappin obviously has the heaviest workload lift after the celebration folks. And he's been very cooperative with getting the ADA mats down, the fencing, the blockage for the carriage road to be blocked off. And it's really been a meeting of not why we can't do it, of more of how we can, and let's make it great. So I really look forward to that. I will certainly attend that event as I did with the Celebrate Tolland. Moving forward, we're currently posting for animal control and the grants position, and there are several applicants for those positions, and the drought. Looking at that, obviously, we've had significant rain, and when it actually turned into darn near flooding issues through a couple of the storms managed by Chief Lytle. Looking at the latest drought report today, the rains obviously helped a ton, and it looks like we're going to have average rainfall at least for the next 7 days. So we're going to get back to normal. We did start watering some of our fields in town based on need and squeaky wheels in town complaining about it. So we got that up and going. You know, we talked about salt issue and some of the things we can do responsibly as a town, and we considered switching over to sand salt mix. We are not completely sold on that. It remains an option, or there exists the possibility we could go to a 30% sand, 60% salt. But the jury's still out on that. And Director Lappin is doing his research. We tend to vacillate. We're seeking expert opinion as to what we'll finally settle on to add to the list of things that we're doing to responsibly manage the salt that we're putting down the road while maintaining public safety. There's a bevy of people that we're coordinating that with. That's it for now. That's all I have. If anyone has any questions.
Other questions, anyone for the town manager's report? That's my new Jim.
I just want to say thank you for the salt sand thing. You know, this has been something I've been yelling about since pretty much week 2 of my first term. So the fact that we're talking about going back to some kind of salt sand mixture, it's not just salt anymore. I truly appreciate it, and I know the residents will appreciate it also. I understand that it's a big lift because we changed all the trucks to just go to salt, but I think it's the responsible thing to do. So I thank you for taking it seriously and moving on so quickly.
Absolutely.
And I think I concur, especially since we've utilized some of our ARPA funds for a street sweeper.
Exactly.
So we have a purpose for it. I mean, it's all used for other cleanup efforts.
And the vacuum too.
Yeah,
Get out the drains, you know,
Yep,
and
culverts, yep.
you know, that'll be a part of our effort to really pound those hot zones where there is high salt to really, you know, hit those areas. I don't want to say with more frequency, but with more frequency.
Yeah.
So we just have to do it. So see what the results bear out over the years.
Any other questions from councilors? Councilman Murray?
Yeah, I had a question. I know this was in the email that Steve sent, but about the pooled investments at the very end, towards the very end of your report. I think this is sort of a regular update we get, but you indicated in your email, this is revenue from these investments is a little bit less than expected. Did I read that right?
You did?
And it, dare I ask how much less than expected? Is it
You know,
impactful?
Lisa's away. I was
Okay.
hoping to get that from Chris. I did not. I did get the other stuff, but I'm happy to get that email format as soon as Lisa avails that information.
Yeah, just, I guess
How bad?
the real, I get, yeah, what I'm trying to get at is how does this impact?
Yep.
You know, the fiscal budget and. Cause I know it's part of, it's built into the budget, so,
Absolutely.
yeah. Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council members from the manager's report? Councilor Khan?
Only one question, I'm trying to understand myself. About the salt and, about the salt, it's 50-50, whatever, so that. How effective is gonna be, what the there's a reason behind it, but it's like, how effective is it?
Well, that's open to debate. There's some people that say sand does have an effect. There's some that say have none. There's some that say that it has an effect for a little while. That is a part of the research that Mr. Lappin's doing, and hence when I said we're vacillating on which way we're gonna go with it. All things that we're considering. We are not the experts on sand and salt. I certainly am not. Scott has had extensive training with the University of Connecticut and deep, but at the same time, he's seeking other opinions so we can make the most responsible decision. The bottom line, regardless of whether we go with the sand or we don't, we're still going to drastically, I want to say drastically, responsibly limit as much salt as we can from getting into our waterways, and that obviously entails cutting back the pounds per road mile. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think I'll add to it, maybe with a quick question is. Your factor, but it's obviously public safety and environmental safety are paramount, but is there any cost differential to pre-purchasing sand or having sand as part of our blend compared to being just totally salt?
I would like to say there's a savings, but considering inflation over the last year, it's darn near a push. But yes, it's cheaper to buy the blend, I believe, than it is salt. Director Lappin, am I accurate in that?
Yes, the initial cost is less, but the cleanup is gonna be more.
Okay.
Because of the catch basin cleaning, then we have to dispose. Just if I can just add to this. One of the big concerns that's coming up now, we don't need to add any more concerns to the Tolland is in the springtime, people that do use sand, if they don't get it up off the roads quick enough, cars drive on it, it becomes a little airborne. Now there's concerns about silicosis, which is the silica getting into your lungs. So it's like, dude, you just need to turn heater on. So that-
Yeah.
Geothermal heat.
Yeah.
Run some pipes, we got.
Yeah. Any other
How
questions?
much that would cost?
Cheat all the roads. I couldn't afford to do my driving.
Giant magnifying.
All right, let's move on to item 11, adoption of minutes. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes as laid out in 11.1 and 11.2.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Murray, is there a second? Second by Councilman Yudichak. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, and 12 is correspondence to council.
Oh. I have that. Great. There were I had two emails. Which. In the last, since 8/24. One regarding vacancies on boards and commissions, and the other was a forward of the Deep newsletter.
Thank you. So I number 13 chairperson's report. There is, I believe, a siting council meeting coming up. I know I think Mr. Foley and myself got an email, I think, about AT&T or one of the providers is looking to share access to one of the towers. So that's coming up as a meeting. Chair hour left on the first Thursday of the month was relatively quiet due to the holiday weekend. So there's not too much else to report, but as everyone else has said, great job to Public Works, everyone involved, recreation at Tolland. Looking forward to all the work that's gonna be done for the fall festival. I think it's gonna be a great time. And then just one quick comment. Unfortunately, there's been some really sad news, I think, hitting, and I just want to extend my sympathies and just appreciation for Tammy. It's what I've heard, read and seen is just absolutely awful and inexcusable, and I'm glad they caught this person and that justice will be served, because doesn't, has no place in Tolland. Moving on, 14, communications and petitions from council members. Councilor Luba. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to, I'll address that issue that you brought up in a second. But there is a concern that I have, and I know that with, Mr. Foley, he sent out a great letter, an email to us all saying about the electorates and about the registrar's office down in Fairfield, and about the issues that they encounter down there, and how there's the one issue that he that you stressed in it is the requirement for us to have trust in our registrar's office and trust in our public employees. And with that being said, I think that there's an issue which that I would request an ethics review on for the registrar's office, for the issue where we have a person that's working there that is now affiliated or is a direct under direct employment or direct support of a political campaign. And I think it's something where it's not any malice or anything else, but I think again it goes to the issue of integrity, where I've been contacted by a number of people who have expressed concerns where you have somebody that's supposed to be a neutral registrar, neutral person supporting the registration process and the electoral process will be found that is an active member of a campaign. And I think that's something that, if not an actual conflict of interest, at least gives the appearance of impropriety. And I think it's something that deserves to be looked into to see if there is any conflict of interest or improprieties. Not saying that there would be any affect their position, but I think it's something that just with the appearance of it, where you have somebody that is in this position as a member of the town staff who is now involved in actively supporting and a member of a campaign that it's created significant issues that I've heard from many of our constituents, regardless of the position. I know that the registrars that each have political affiliations, which is something which I know that that's to be expected, but to be actively involved in a campaign, I think is something that goes beyond the ken for this position, and that's what I would ask and make a formal request for an ethics and an HR review on that issue. Then also going along in the same vein within that letter about talking about the de-escalation and polarization. That I think what we've all heard about, and it's all public in the news, and I've not spoken to Tammy or anybody else about this, but I think it's something that really is that we as a town council should take a very strong stance and should come out in statements against this. That we've had our own public officials from the highest level, down from the office of the president down all the way through, that are now demonizing our own residents within our country, within our town, basically calling people that if you're not with me, then you're my enemy. And saying that, and we've heard that even in our own discussions, where you have people saying that that if you don't support this position, then you're against us. And that you have people saying, what are you willing to do to take back your town, your state, your country? And the rhetoric on both sides is inexcusable. And I think that we see what the ultimate outcome of that rhetoric is, where now we have one of our own who faced a threat of this nature. And whether or not this had a direct part in it, that I think it's inexcusable the way that the rhetoric is going, to have people pitting us against one another, and to say that, to call people extremists and to call them that they are a threat to our democracy. This rhetoric, this is inexcusable, and it does ratchet up the heat, and it does cause these people that are on the fringe outside, who may already have issues, to now take actions which are inexcusable. And I think that I would call upon not just the council here, but to any other people out there, to any campaigns that are involved, to come out against this. Because we can't allow this to happen, and to actually step to reconsider what people are saying. This whole rhetoric of you're with us or against us is intolerable, and it's something that cannot be condoned. And that I would just ask that we take a stance, and that we take a public stance against this. And that we call upon everybody, all of our elected officials and all of our campaigning officials to take a look at what's going on and take a stance against this. Stop the rhetoric. We are neighbors. We are friends. We are residents of Tolland. We need to start acting like that again. We need to start working together again. I mean, on the anniversary, it was 9/11 just this past Sunday. And to have that same rhetoric playing out again on the TV by our elected officials. We're Americans, first and foremost. We have to remember what united us back in 9/11. And hopefully we can get back to there before we experience other issues. What happened is inexcusable. What happened to Tammy is inexcusable. I'm glad that the person was arrested. We'll leave it up to the court system to have justice meted out if it's appropriate. But for all of us out there, for anyone that's still out there, think about it. Think about what you're doing. Think about what you're saying. Think about it that we're all neighbors. And at the end of the day, we have to live together. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I agree with a lot of what you said there. I appreciate the passion behind it.
Mr. Jones, Chairman Jones, can I respond to that first part?
Sure.
Thank you, Councilperson Luba. So I'm not saying this in any way to influence your decision on whether to move forward in any ethics thing. And in fact, I don't know if the registrars would fall under the town ethics or the state ethics. I'm sure if you look at the Fairfield thing, I believe it was the state that intervened in that thing. But I would say I've lived through many ethics investigations in previous lifetimes, and you hope they are a last resort. And I say that because you may or may not be aware of a thorough complaint, for lack of a better term, came into my office. I forwarded it to Mr. Bach and Mr. Wyman earlier in the week. Based on the complaint, I wanted to see some minimal actions taken. They went above and beyond in how they handled it. And if anyone did want to make an ethics complaint, I would ask that they had in due diligence just approach them and ask them what they did, and it may satisfy some of what has occurred. It may, and it may not. And I encourage everyone to pursue any avenues. But in the effort of de-escalation, ethics complaints getting lobbed around sometimes is not overly de-escalating, but I understand they do build integrity. It's been brought to it was brought to my office, rightly or wrongly. I brought it to the registrars appropriately. And in my estimation, I think it was dealt with, but again, that's in my humble opinion, and I encourage anyone else to pop your head in there. Those guys will tell you what happened. And as far as the state representative, whether she wanted me to or not, she's had me right by her hip through a lot of this. And I thank the law enforcement here in town, the state capitol police, for their swift response to this. And it just falls in line with everything we're preaching here. Everyone, like I said in the email, everybody wants de-escalation. We all talk about it. We all want to end the polarization. Who's taking steps to do that? So that I'll leave it there and say that one final thing. I really love working with all you guys. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. I enjoy working with all of you as well. And I think give us something and then Colleen or no. Okay. Councilman, your check.
Yes, Tanner, sorry what happened to you today. I looked at it and get your attention, but I agree with the sentiments of fellow counselors. I mean, I was looking at the minutes from our last meeting, thought we were going to come up with a general statement. Probably include this. I don't know where that says. I'm gonna be on the council agenda, but I thought, if I'm not. if I'm wrong, but I thought that's what we discussed was a general thing about bigotry or hate or whatever it was. I'm hoping that. we'll do that. You know, we have to, like Brian said, we have to continue, we have to do something. We're the leaders of this town. I don't know, so. Tammy, you know.
Thank you, Councilman Yudichak. Are there any other communications or petitions from council members? All right, seeing none, we'll move to item 15, which is public list participation on any subject in the jurisdiction of the town council. With a 3-minute limit. If you are online, you can hit *9 or raise hand function. All right, going once, going twice. All right, we'll move to item 16, adjournment, and entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:22 p.m.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Murray. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Take care.